Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Thank you for coming. Nikki and I are presenting for you today, but I just wanted to do a little housekeeping stuff first. Here is our upcoming Web Wednesdays. So you are at Caregiver Supports right now. We're going to do a student art showcase in 2 weeks, and that's Dickinson High School and I collaborated, and the students at Dickinson High School are now teaching the elementary students about brain injury prevention, and then those students are going to kind of show that through art, and then we're going to kind of show you guys what they created, and then we'll pick some of our favorites and probably utilize those for some of our materials. We have military population and brain injury coming up. And that is not the right, sorry, I'm just noticing that is not the right description. So ignore that description. We need to change that. That is not who's speaking. She spoke a while ago. I'll have to check that out. And then we're also having a speaker on the April 21st about resilience during COVID. So I just wanted you to be aware of those. And then these get archived, as you can see down below. There'll be a recording and the CE request available for you as well, usually by the end of the day tomorrow. All right, well, I'm going to transition to my slides here. And if I can. All right, you seeing that okay?
Yep, I am.
Right. Okay, so supporting caregivers was actually a topic request that we had. So we wanted to honor that request, and it is a very important topic and area that we see a need for as well. So I'm Carly Endres. I'm the outreach coordinator for NDBIN. And that means I help with all of our outreach events and our Mind Matters conference, which I hope you are all registered for, and coming up in a couple weeks here, and our online courses and webinar Wednesdays and things. So please make sure you're filling out your certificates with input as far as what you want to see on these Web Wednesdays. So go ahead, Nikki, I'll let you.
I'm Nikki Livedalen. I'm the resource facilitator for the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. So basically that means when you call that 855 number, you get me, and I'll try and help with linking up with services or available opportunities in your area. So that's basically what I do.
All right, we're gonna do slides for Nikki. She's going to start off, and then I'll kind of finish up. So we'll take turns here. But
okay, to start off, just about caregiving. It can be very meaningful. It can be rewarding. It can be satisfying. But caregiving can also be confusing, frustrating, overwhelming, and exhausting. Just remembering to acknowledge these feelings is important in helping to keep you being the best caregiver that you can be. It is okay to have some negative feelings at times, but then, acknowledging that and moving forward, knowing your limits, seeking help when you need it. That's all very important stuff. So next slide. Ambiguous loss moves. We talk about survivors of brain injury often look like they always have. It's a complicated grieving process when we have individuals who are still with us, but they have changed personality maybe, or just are not the same as who they were. So when the survivor of a brain injury is unchanged physically, people on the outside of the family may not always accept that there is a change at all. So in reality, the survivor has changed dramatically for those closest to them, both emotionally and cognitively sometimes. And so when others do not accept that or see that, it can leave caregivers feeling very alone and isolated. Caregivers are at higher risk for depression, burnout, and medical illness. Also. There's 5 stages of grief. I just wanted to take a little time to discuss how grief, in terms of a brain injury, is very different than a death. But it's recommended that caregivers be allowed the time to grieve the stages of loss for the person with the brain injury also. It's important not to ignore these stages, but to acknowledge the process and let it happen. We find that caregivers can cycle through these at different times. They're not always in the exact order presented up here of denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. You can go back and forth between those areas. It's also important to remember that the care receiver could be grieving the loss of themselves as well, and maybe going through the different stages at different times throughout this process too. So some ways to help the care receiver and yourself cope: provide time, support, and motivation as the care receiver navigates through the changing emotions. Acknowledge the loss without really dwelling on it, just being able to say it must be very difficult not being able to dance like you used to, but then not dwelling on it, moving on to like something that is positive. Avoid trivializing the loss. Example, if you think you have it bad, I knew someone who, and that's just minimizing their feelings, and that's not okay either. Avoid reasoning away the loss. You may not be able to play hockey, but at least you can walk. But still, you have to grieve that loss of not being able to play hockey anymore, or do what you were able to do before. Promoting awareness of the care receiver's successes and strengths, keeping positive about what has gotten better, how we can work on a goal. Anyway, frequently use encouragement and positive reinforcements. Assess and monitor activities that can trigger feelings of loss, or feelings of grief and loss, and select activities to increase the likelihood of a positive experience for you as the caregiver and the care receiver. So something positive that you can do together, that isn't a struggle, but that you both enjoy. And also seeking counseling and support within your community for your loved one and yourself. We'll touch on that a little bit later too. Moving into importance of self-care, your calm mind is the ultimate weapon against your challenges. Many caregivers end up passing away before their care receiver because they do not take time for themselves. So remembering to, take time for yourself, 5 to 10 minutes a day even, can make a huge impact on health and the care that you're providing also. So Carly really enjoys the Calm app. She recommends it a lot. She uses it every day, and there's a free version and a paid version. And later we'll listen to a segment of Calm too. So self-care tips. Make time for yourself. Eat properly and take care of yourself. Caregivers need to take the time to do something for yourself. Read a book for an hour, go to a movie, take a walk by yourself or with a friend, something that you enjoy. Also, monitoring your own health and including humor in your life is important. You need to make sure to eat properly, and take care of yourself, even when it is hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to remember those things, but scheduling routines and those annual appointments and examinations to keep your own health on track is just as important as taking care of your care receiver. Watch a comedy or attend live performances that keep things lighthearted for you and your family. Sometimes that's just a little bit of a relaxation. Managing self-care. have realistic expectations, focus on what you can do, communicate effectively with others, deal with emotions, set goals, and work toward them. By having too high of expectations, you're setting up room for disappointment, which can lead to negative feelings when you don't reach those expectations. So taking things at a manageable pace keeps everyone in a calmer place and allows for more success. So if you meet your goal and exceed that a little bit, then it's more of a success than if you had unrealistic expectations to begin with. Also, when you do include others to help you out, it's difficult to let others know what you need. So if you're asking for help, making sure that your communication is strong and that you're saying what you do need, so that they can know what your expectations are, so you're not let down, and it lessens the burden of stress on you as a caregiver instead of increasing it. So making sure that if you're accepting help, they know what the help is that you do need. I think that's always important. Somebody might volunteer to help, but when they don't do it the way we want, we get a little stressed out and upset, and then that's not giving you a break. So being clear on what your expectations are. Stress management. Learn what your warning signs are. Identify the sources of stress. Decide what you can and cannot change. Make changes that you can. When we neglect stress, it leads to increased health problems, disrupted relationships, burnout, depression, and decreased quality of care for your care receiver. So things you can change. You can change how the situation is developing. You can change your own perception, and you can change your response to a lot of things. So just knowing when you're becoming stressed and how to change those attitudes can really help out too. When you're finding help, so enlisting supportive friends. Friendships can put you in touch with the outside world, even if it is just over the telephone. Family and friends may want to help, like we talked about, but they don't know what is helpful to you until you can tell them. So you can give them those suggestions of what they can do to help you. They're probably more than willing. They just need to know what it is. If there's respite available in your community, it's important to use it. Reach out and take those breaks. They will keep you fresh and allow you to be a better caregiver to your loved one. So that's important for both sides. If you're burnt out, your care receiver can feel that too. So it's best to take those breaks before it becomes a bigger issue. Join a support group to talk about your experiences and to hear from others who are experiencing similar things. There are other people out there. You're not alone. Can feel like that if you don't reach out. So reaching out is important. If you're experiencing an emotional meltdown, seek counseling. Being a good caregiver means taking care of yourself first. Going out and seeking the help that you need is definitely, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's meaning you want to be that good caregiver. Writing things down can help decrease your stress level. And it's also a good guide for anyone who is helping out. So keeping your schedules written out so that somebody can see it is helpful too. And having already taught someone else what to do or what you do as a caregiver can be a real relief if something should happen to you where your loved one has to be left in the hands of another caregiver. So if you've already taught someone how to do that, then there's way less stress on you. And I guess that's what I have, moving into power of positivity.
Yes. So I came across this TED Talk not too long ago, and I just think what she has to say is really powerful. And I just wanted to share this with all of you about the power of positivity. So we're going to listen to this, and then we have some more info for you as well.
Can the mind really heal the body? And if so, is there any scientific evidence to convince skeptical physicians like me? These are the questions that fueled the last few years of my research. And what I discovered is that the scientific community, the medical establishment, has been proving for over 50 years that the mind can heal the body. We call it the placebo effect. And we've been trying to outsmart it for decades. The placebo effect is a thorn in the side of the medical establishment. It's an inconvenient truth that gets in between trying to bring new treatments, new surgeries into the medical establishment. So it's a problem, supposedly. But I actually think this is really good news. The placebo effect is excellent news because it's concrete evidence that the body holds within it innate self-repair mechanisms that can make unthinkable things happen to the body. So if you find this surprising, if you have a hard time believing that the body can heal itself, you need look no further than the Spontaneous Remission Project, a database compiled by the Institute of Noetic Sciences of over 3,500 case studies in the medical literature of patients who have gotten better from seemingly incurable illnesses. You think there's such a thing as an incurable illness? I swear, if you go look at this database, it'll blow your mind. Everything's in there. Stage 4 cancers that disappeared without treatment. HIV positive patients that became HIV negative. Heart disease, kidney failure, diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid disease, autoimmune diseases, gone. A great example of this in the medical literature is a case study from 1957 of Mr. Wright, who had advanced lymphosarcoma. So things weren't going well for Mr. Wright. Time was really running out. He had tumors the size of oranges in his armpits, his neck, his chest, his abdomen, his liver and his spleen were enlarged, and his lungs were filling up with 2 quarts of milky fluid every day that had to be drained in order for him to breathe. But Mr. Wright wasn't giving up hope. He had heard about this wonder drug called Kreviosin, and he was begging his doctor, come on, just give me some of that Kreviosin, it's all going to be good. Now, unfortunately, the Kreviosin was only available on a research protocol, and the protocol required that the doctor be able to make an assessment that says that this guy has at least 3 months to live. And his doctor, Dr. West, just couldn't do that. But Mr. Wright was tenacious, and he didn't give up. He kept badgering his doctor, until finally his doctor was like, okay, fine, I'll give you the Kreviosin. So he dosed him up on a Friday, not expecting that Mr. Wright would make it through the weekend. But to his utter shock, when Dr. West came in to do rounds on Monday, Mr. Wright was up walking around the wards, and his tumors had shrunk to half their original size. They had melted like snowballs on a hot stove, and 10 days after getting the Kreviosin, they were gone. So Mr. Wright was up rocking and rolling, like praising Kreviosin as the miracle drug he believed it to be for 2 months, until the initial reports came out about Kreviosin that said that it didn't really look like Kreviosin was working so well. And Mr. Wright fell into a deep depression, and his cancer came back. So this time Dr. West decided to get sneaky, and he told his patient that, you know, that Kreviosin that you got, that was a tainted version, really not so good. But I got us some ultra pure, highly concentrated Kreviosin. This stuff's got it going on. He then injected Mr. Wright with nothing but distilled water. And once again, the tumors disappeared. The fluid in his lungs went away. Mr. Wright was up rocking and rolling for another 2 months. And then the American Medical Association blew it by publishing a nationwide study that proved definitively Kreviosin was worthless. 2 days later, Mr. Wright, after hearing this news, died. Soon after that, I came across another study in the medical literature that was the stuff of fairy tales. 3 baby girls were born, delivered by a midwife on Friday the 13th in the Okefenokee Swamp near the Georgia-Florida border. And the midwife pronounced that these 3 babies born on such a fateful day were all hexed. The first, she said, would die before her 16th birthday. The second, before her 21st. The third, before her 23rd birthday. And as it turned out, the first girl died the day before her 16th birthday. The second died the day before her 21st birthday. And the third girl, who knew what had happened to the other two, got wind of that. The day before her 23rd birthday, she showed up at the hospital hyperventilating, begging them to make sure she survived. She wound up dying that night. These two case studies are great examples from the medical literature of the placebo effect and its opposite, the nocebo effect. So Mr. Wright, when he got that distilled water and his tumors melted away, that's a great example of the placebo effect, when you get a seemingly inert treatment, and yet something's happening physiologically in the body, such that disease goes away. The nocebo effect is the opposite. So the 3 hexed girls are an example of the nocebo effect, when the mind's belief that something bad is going to happen in the body then comes to manifest. So the scientific literature, the medical journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and the Journal of the American Medical Association, these scientific journals are full of evidence that the placebo effect and the nocebo effect are incredibly powerful. We've known this since the 1950s, and we've seen countless case studies that show that in almost everything you study, if you give people a fake treatment, a sugar pill, a saline injection, or most effectively a fake surgery, 18 to 80% of the time, people get better. And it's not just in their mind. That's what I thought in the beginning, like, oh, they're just feeling better, they're thinking better. But it's not, it's actually in their physiology. This is measurable. You can actually see what happens to the body. So, for example, patients getting placebos were found to have ulcers that healed, colons that became less inflamed, bronchi that dilated, warts that disappeared. Cells looked different under the microscope. It's provable. It's happening in the body, even though it's initiated by the mind. So when you look at these, some of the studies are just amazing. I love the Rogaine study. So, you get a bunch of bald men, you give them placebos, they grow hair. The opposite is also true. So if you give people a placebo and you tell them it's chemotherapy, they vomit and they lose their hair. So this is really happening in the body. And the question that I had is it just the mind's positive belief that's making this happen? Not according to Harvard researcher Ted Kapchick. According to him, he thinks that the most essential part is actually the nurturing care of a healthcare provider, more so even than the mind's positive belief. That some of the studies actually say the doctor is the placebo, or can be. So Ted Kapchick wanted to study this, and he did a great study looking at patients that were getting placebos for an illness, for treatment of an illness, and he told them, you're getting a placebo. There's nothing in here, inert ingredients, nothing active. They still got better. Most likely, Kapchick postulated, because they felt tended, nurtured. They felt like they were doing something. They felt like somebody cared. So to say that you can heal yourself is sort of a misnomer. The body can heal itself. The body has these innate natural self-repair mechanisms. But the scientific data proves that you need the tending, nurturing care of a healthcare provider, of some sort, of a healer, to facilitate that process. It's not an easy process to go through alone. So it makes a big difference if somebody else is holding that positive belief with you. But the problem is, while the doctor can be the placebo, the doctor can also be the nocebo. So what patients need from us as healthcare providers, they need us to be forces of healing, not forces of fear or pessimism. So every time your doctor tells you you have an incurable illness, you're going to have to take that medication for the rest of your life. Or God forbid you get cancer and they say you got a 5% 5-year survival rate. It's really no different than when that midwife told those 3 baby girls that they were hexed. It's a form of medical hexing that's so prevalent. As doctors, we think we're being realistic. We're giving people kind of information we think they need to know, but we actually can be harming them. Instead, we need to be more like Dr. West. Taking that distilled water. Really, Mr. Wright, I promise, this is going to do it for you. But do we have to count on our doctors to dupe us? Do we have to get fake surgeries and fake drugs and wind up in clinical trials? This is what led the next phase of my research. So in my last TEDx talk, I talked about a new wellness model that I developed called the Whole Health Cairn. And this came about as part of my research, trying to find how else can we harness this mind's power that's clearly evidenced by the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, can we do something without being in a clinical trial? And my hypothesis was that in order to heal ourselves, in order to be optimally healthy, we need more than just a good diet, a regular exercise program, getting enough sleep, taking your vitamins, following your doctor's orders. Those things are all great and critical, important. But I also came to believe that we need healthy relationships, a healthy professional life, a healthy creative life, a healthy spiritual life, a healthy sex life, a healthy financial life, a healthy environment. In essence, we need a healthy mind. So I wanted to try to prove this. And I went into the medical literature, and the copious data that I found proving that all of those things are essential really blew my mind. I compiled them all into my upcoming book, Mind Over Medicine, Scientific Proof You Can Heal Yourself. But I want to give you a few highlights about what this is all about. So you can see from the whole health cairn that all of these facets are built upon a foundation stone that I call your inner pilot light. And for me, that's that essential, authentic part of you that knows what's true for you, that's willing to tell you the truth about maybe what's out of alignment in your life, what stones in your whole health cairn might be out of balance. And as you see, I put the body, physical health, on the top of the whole health cairn because it's the most fragile, the most precarious, and the most easy to kind of fall out of balance if other things in your life aren't going so well. So what I found in the medical data is that relationships matter. People who have a strong social network have half the rate of heart disease compared to those who are lonely. Married people are twice as likely to live long lives than unmarried people. In fact, curing your loneliness may be the most important measure of prevention you can enact upon your body, more so than quitting smoking or starting to exercise. Your spiritual life matters. Those who attend religious services live up to 14 years longer. Your professional life matters. You really can work yourself to death. In Japan, they call it karoshi, death by overwork. And people who survive, the survivors of those who die of karoshi can actually apply for workman's comp like benefits in Japan. But it's not just Japan, it's actually happening even more in the United States. We just don't get benefits here. So they did one study and they found that people who fail to take their vacation are actually a third more likely to get heart disease. The attitude really matters. Happy people live 7 to 10 years longer than unhappy people. And optimists are 77% less likely to get heart disease than pessimists. So how does this happen? What's happening in the brain that's making the body change? This was what was fascinating to me. What I found was that the brain communicates with all the cells in the body via hormones and neurotransmitters. So for example, if you have a negative thought, belief, or feeling in the brain, your brain triggers this as a threat. Something's wrong. If you feel lonely or pessimistic, things are bad at work, you're in a toxic relationship, the amygdala says threat, threat, threat. And it turns on the hypothalamus that talks to the pituitary gland, that communicates with the adrenal gland, and the adrenal gland starts spitting out stress hormones like cortisol, norepinephrine, epinephrine. It turns on what Walter Cannon at Harvard called the stress response, that triggers the sympathetic nervous system, and puts you into that fight or flight mode, which is adaptive, it's protective if you're running away from a mountain lion, But in everyday life, you're supposed to have that quick stress response if there's a threat, and then it's supposed to switch right off. This isn't what happens in our regular lives these days. But fortunately, there's a counterbalancing relaxation response that Herbert Benson at Harvard described. And when this comes about, the stress response turns off, the parasympathetic nervous system turns on, and healing hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, nitric oxide, endorphins fill the body and bathe every cell in the body. What I found the most amazing about this is that those natural self-repair mechanisms that we all have, they only flip on when the nervous system is relaxed. So when you're having stress responses, that all those natural self-repair mechanisms get flipped off. The body's too busy trying to fight or flee in order to heal itself. So when you think about this, you have to start to wonder, how can I possibly start to change the balance in my own body? So one study showed that on average, we have more than 50 stress responses per day. And if you're lonely or depressed or pessimistic or unhappy at work or in a miserable relationship, that number is going to be more than twice as many. Now, the relaxation response is what researchers think explains the placebo effect. So when you're going to get supposedly maybe a new wonder drug, you don't know whether you're getting the placebo or not, it triggers that relaxation response, that combination of the mind's positive belief and the nurturing care of a healthcare provider relaxes the nervous system. And then all those natural self-repair mechanisms can come into play. Fortunately, though, you don't have to be in a clinical trial to turn on your relaxation responses. There are lots of simple, pleasurable activities that turn on the relaxation responses, and these have been proven in the medical literature. So you can meditate. You can express yourself creatively. You can get a massage, do yoga or Tai Chi. You can go out with your friends. You can do work that you love. You can have sex. You can laugh. You can exercise. You can play with animals. So I ask you to consider the whole health cairn in your own life. Which stones in your whole health cairn might be out of balance? Each of these stones can be a factor for creating stress responses or relaxation responses. How might you turn on more relaxation responses in your body? And most importantly, what does your body need in order to heal? What prescription do you need to write for yourself? And are you going to be brave enough to take action on the truth of what your inner pilot light already knows? I believe our system, our healthcare system, is badly broken, and it's largely because we've lost respect for the body's ability to heal itself. The medical establishment has gotten arrogant. We've come to think that with all of our modern technology and all that we've learned in the past century, that we've mastered nature, and we find it repelling to think that maybe nature could be better than we are sometimes. And yet, spontaneous remissions from incurable diseases are proof that sometimes nature's just better than we are. It's a narcissistic wound for physicians. We don't know what to do with that. It makes us feel helpless and hopeless and useless. But fortunately, we're needed. The physician and all the other healthcare providers are absolutely essential to this process. We need to embrace this. And patients need to change their outlooks on this as well. It's not just doctors. We need patients to stop thinking that your body is not your business, taking your power and handing it over to other healthcare providers. Your body is your business, and your mind has tremendous power to communicate with your body such that your body can heal itself. So I once had a dream, and in my dream, I was standing there looking at these mountainsides full of millions of people that were standing shoulder to shoulder, and they were all facing due north, dressed in all these tribal garbs, beautiful colors, covering the mountainsides like a quilt. And there was a bright, streaming light on their face, and everyone was facing this light. And that's what I think of when I think of healthcare. I think of...
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I tried to let JP back in. Let's see here. She's almost done, I think. Sorry, guys.
I believe our system, our health physicians, we don't know what to do with that. It makes us feel helpless and hopeless and useless. But fortunately, we're needed. The physician and all the other healthcare providers are absolutely essential to this process. We need to embrace this. And patients need to change their outlooks on this as well. It's not just doctors. We need patients to stop thinking that your body is not your business, taking your power and handing it over to other healthcare providers. Your body is your business, and your mind has tremendous power to communicate with your body such that your body can heal itself. So I once had a dream, and in my dream, I was standing there looking at these mountainsides full of millions of people that were standing shoulder to shoulder, and they were all facing due north, dressed in all these tribal garbs, beautiful colors, covering the mountainsides like a quilt. And there was a bright, streaming light on their face, and everyone was facing this light. And that's what I think of when I think of healthcare. I think of all of us standing up and facing the light. So please stand with me for a moment. It's going to take all of us. Just because things have gotten bad doesn't mean they can't get better. I believe that just like there are no incurable illnesses, there are no incurable systems. But it's going to take all of us needing to open our heart and open our minds and bring care back to healthcare. So please hold hands with your fellow neighbor, and let's just set the intention right here that things are going to be different from now on, that we can start this grassroots effort, that it all starts with you. Be the love that you want to see in healthcare, and I believe miracles can happen. As we do this, you're releasing oxytocin, dopamine. You start to heal yourself, And as we do so, we can heal healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, so I think she just has a lot of really good points in there. And I think, you know, you as a caregiver, or those of you that work with caregivers, you know, a caregiver is an important component of that healthcare team. It might not be a licensed one, or, you know, one with all the formal training and the letters behind their name, but I do think it's still very important, and that those relationships really matter. Nikki and I sat in on a presentation yesterday, kind of about person-centered planning in hospitals, and they talked a lot about COVID and isolation. And the one man said that they were really seeing people, you know, their health decline so drastically that they decided to start slowly let people in to visit, and that really changed a lot of the outcomes with the people that they had thought were maybe not going to make it from their COVID, but that sense of hope and that perk up that they got from seeing that person. So if we can just try to be that positive person for someone, and just practice positivity ourselves, I think that works in both aspects. All right. Nikki, can you check? Here, I'm gonna look in chat. Chat. Oh,
Not seeing anything in chat.
oh, he sent it just to me. Okay, we're good.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, so some communication reminders. So good communication helps prevent misunderstandings. It builds relationships and increases your chances of being heard, reduces stress and frustration, and it enhances problem solving. So so Nikki and I both are certified to teach powerful tools for caregivers, and we'll talk about that later in the end of our presentation too. But some of the lessons kind of that they give you throughout that course are using I messages. And that can be really kind of hard at first. It's hard, especially those hidden I messages can be hard to recognize when we're doing them. But we're going to give you some examples. So of some different I messages. So Nikki's going to give you kind of the you message or the not I message, and I will give you the correct or the I message that would follow. So go ahead, Nikki.
So, you made me angry. Instead,
I-
you could say.
Yep. So instead we say, I feel angry, because it's how you're feeling. Yes, the person probably said something that made you feel that way, but instead of putting it back on them, own it yourself. I feel angry.
You don't know what it's like caring for this person or whatever.
Yep. I feel overwhelmed caring for so-and-so. So this is kind of when you're talking to someone else, maybe about your frustrations.
You're always late.
I like to be punctual. So again, you're putting it back on you. You're owning it yourself. So you got to be careful about those hidden you messages too. Like, I don't like, or trying to think of a good example, Nikki. I don't like when you make me late.
Yeah. That's
You know,
still
you're still pointing the finger at the person. If that makes sense. And then there's a few others on here, being clear and specific when you're communicating. And these communication reminders are good for when you're at the doctor's office, when you're talking with maybe someone that's taking over for you as a caregiver, being a good listener, speaking directly to the person, not through maybe the care receiver. A lot of people tend to do that if they're in an appointment together or things, but talk directly to the doctor or the nurse or whoever it is you're trying to communicate with. Being assertive and not aggressive is something you want to watch for too. Assertiveness describes observable behavior or the problem. It expresses how you feel. It specifies what needs to happen, and then it kind of gives what happens if that doesn't happen. So I know the example they give in Powerful Tools, they're talking about someone that's wanting help taking their care receiver to appointments, and they're asking, I think it's like a sister or someone to help. And it's they say, you know, I feel very overwhelmed with all of these appointments. Could you please help take so-and-so to the doctor's office this day, so I can get a break. And then if that doesn't happen, I'm, I can't think of a good consequence for that one, but I'm gonna feel way too overwhelmed with all the things I have, or I'm not gonna be able to bring whatever it is to Thanksgiving, or, like say you're planning some kind of upcoming event. So just some things to think about when you're talking to other people. All right. So stress resilience. Here are some strategies to boost resilience. A caregiver's journey can be divided into stages. During the crisis stage, you are taking in all the new information and trying to comprehend everything that is happening and being told to you. Then there is the multiple adjustment stage, where the survivor comes home and navigating all the changes and transitions are always present. The new normal stage is when the needs and rehabilitation of the survivor become part of a family's life. Then you also have aging with brain injury stage, where burnout and compassion fatigue take its toll on the caregiver. It's important to be mindful of taking care of yourself to be the best caregiver to your loved one. We're going to keep saying that today. I hope that's what you take away from today, is that even if you take a minute for yourself every day, if you are a caregiver, it can dramatically improve outcomes for both you and the care receiver. So I do love that one about humor too. I think that's a great one, using humor to boost your mood. Positive emotions, all of those are really good things. Feelings are definitely a normal response. There's a lot of guilt that goes on with caregivers. They feel guilty for feeling guilty almost, basically. Sometimes they don't feel like their feelings are valid, but they are. And it's very, very normal to feel like you're missing out on parts of your life that you are missing out on, probably. But some good ways to have some self-understanding is to identify the feeling, give it a name. Guilt, remorse, what is it that you're feeling? Accept that feeling, and then try to learn from it. A really good thing to do is to generate a list of ways that you can deal with anger and guilt constructively, though. A lot of times, I think, especially like a North Dakota mindset, have a beer or a drink. We want to get away from in just more of those natural and more calming, like meditation type things. I loved how Lisa in her talk talked about spending time with animals. If you have a dog or a pet, or even if you live on a farm, going out to the animals, getting nature's huge, going for a walk, getting that fresh air, talking to a friend, even if it's just for a couple minutes. There's just so many tips we could give you, and I have a good tip sheet of some like free caregiver things on our website on things you can do, and I'll show you where you can find that later too, but some ways that you can constructively deal with your feelings. Depression is often something that we see from care receivers, so we just like to mention some of the signs of depression. That pervasive sadness, I would say that 2 weeks or more, if you're noticing something for 2 weeks or more, it's time to seek professional help. Appetite changes and sleep difficulties, both increasing or decreasing, can be cause for concern. And definitely those preoccupations with thoughts of suicide, we would really want you to go in and talk to someone about that as well. Or now with telemedicine, you really don't have to go in as much as you used to have to. You can call and oftentimes do things virtually like we are today. So that's an option as well. One study showed 40 to 70% of caregivers had symptoms of depression. There are many effective treatments, so be sure to seek help so that you can continue to be there as a caregiver. Asking for help is not a weakness. It will help to empower your situation. So again, some more signs of depression are listed out for you there. So burnout is physical and emotional exhaustion caused by overwork or prolonged stress. This leads to difficulties with giving care and meeting responsibilities. Remembering to take care of you is the best way to help yourself to be the caregiver that you wish to be. Family meetings are important to hold and have if you haven't had one yet, or maybe you have and you wish you could go back and do it a little bit better, a little more organized. And sometimes it's easier said than done for sure. But some things we would recommend would be to involve that care receiver, no matter what their functionality level is, they should be a part of the conversation. Include everyone in the family, everyone that might be involved, friends, anyone else like respite care providers you might have coming in. Virtual, a lot of times family members don't all live in the same spot, but you can speakerphone, you can Zoom, there's all kinds of different options. There's house party now. It's not necessarily a fun party, but it's a family meeting to hopefully get some good things determined about the situation. Consider having a facilitator. There are a few agencies in North Dakota that will provide you with a facilitator if you would like one. And planning an agenda in advance is also important, just to even think about in terms of what is it that I want to get out of this meeting. If you're the main caregiver and maybe it's you wanting to get a break once a week or something, what's your main goal you're wanting to achieve out of this meeting. And if you do an agenda, oftentimes that can kind of nicely fall into place. But so oftentimes after a brain injury, your care receiver is going to have to meet a lot of new professionals and explain their situations to others, or you might have to explain for them. As a caregiver, others often tend to judge and not believe you. Again, with that, like with the mask slide that Nikki showed, brain injury especially is considered the invisible disability. And so oftentimes it's good to have some evidence prepared to back up your side of the story. So you could start by preparing a brief description of the individual's history, their strengths, difficulties, and needs. You can have an effective strategy when meeting new providers or possible caregivers. Giving a clear and accurate description of the person is very valuable. You can practice before. I think that helps a lot. You can practice with friends or family. You can practice in front of the mirror, just to assure that the picture is clear if you're going to practice with other people, that they're understanding what you're saying and it's not confusing. The second step would be, there are many there may be federal, state, regional, and local programs available. Navigating that system can be very complicated and stressful. Being able to describe what you as a caregiver needs and what the individual you are caring for needs is an important step. NDBIN can assist caregivers and individuals to navigate the system and what program to seek help. So that's really a huge part of Nikki's job, is kind of helping you navigate that system. And all of us really at NDBIN can help, but Nikki's more of the expert in that area. But yes, just please reach out and ask if you want some support with that. The next step, you want someone experienced in brain injury. Our resource directory is a great first step for that. And we're talking as a team about trying to designate certified brain injury specialists a little more clearly too, as we're getting more and more trained throughout the state. So CBIS, you might start to see after people's names on their business cards and emails and things like that. And if they're a CBIS, that means they're a certified brain injury specialist. We have we're at about 65 in North Dakota, and we're pretty proud of that because there was only like 3 a few years ago. So very excited about that. We do have a couple more trainings coming up too, if there's anyone interested. We have one in April scheduled and one in October scheduled. It is through the Brain Injury Association of America. The training is 2 pretty rigorous full days, and then there's a 25 chapter textbook that we cover in those days, and then you're kind of expected to do some self-study. But we have some really good study materials that you can utilize to help study, and then you sit for an exam after. And so then those that pass the exam are designated as a CBIS. And then to keep your CBIS, you have to have 10 credits in brain injury every year, continuing ed credits. And so that just helps enhance the field that much more. Those people are staying relevant on what's going on in the brain injury world. And so that's a really, I think, the biggest aspect to me of CVIS is that they need to continue that education and stay current. Brain injury is constantly coming out with new stats and new technologies and new things. And so it's good for people to be aware of those. And then the final step when it comes back to kind of coordinating services for a care receiver would be reducing stress and maximizing resources, but more services does not guarantee better care. So know what is most important for you and the individual you are caring for. What services are easiest to use or covered by insurance or other funds. We have a couple more. Being an effective advocate is more than being assertive and arguing. Being an effective advocate requires building relationships, presenting information effectively, knowing your rights, and being persistent and persuasive. Learn how you can help people and how programs can help you. The last thing you want to look at is, evaluate the programs and professionals involved in the care of your loved one. Is this making a difference? Is the individual making any progress? Is this the best program for what we need? Are staff competent? Does the program, the service, the professional involve my family? Are there any other options? I would definitely say if the answer is no to a few of those or more than one, I would say to seek second opinions is just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Finding one in North Dakota might be a challenge, and we can try to help you with that. But definitely, it's okay to seek more advice. Okay, so again, that whole self-care thing. Every single day, take time for yourself. I love this quote: "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." Just deep breathing, even for like a minute, can lower our blood pressure significantly and really bring down our stress level. I am going to play a calm for you right now because I just want you to see what it's like. I do have the paid subscription. It's a little spendy. I'm normally not one that pays for things like this, but I got the free and I loved it so much. And so I then bought the full paid version, which I want to say it's like $65 for the year. But I have noticed a couple times they have lifetime ones that come up. And the lifetime ones, I think, are around like $250. So then you would just pay that one fee. But right now I pay annually. I might have to log in. Sorry, guys. Okay. So there's a lot of different aspects of this is their website. So I also have it as an app on my phone, but you can see here there's all these different options along the side, things to help you sleep. There's just music, there's meditation. The master's classes I like a lot. Those are longer. Those are a couple hours usually, but like if I'm driving in the car, it's kind of like the same as listening to a book on tape, but it's usually kind of an interesting topic. And so the one I wanted to do today, though, is for caregivers. Let's see if I need to go into my favorites, I think. Sorry, I thought it was going to take me right there, guys. Just bear with me here. Oh, here, my favorites. There they are. So I want to do this one, caregiving.
Welcome to the Daily Calm.
So we'll just listen to this and we can follow what she says. And just basically it's called guided meditation. So here we go.
Today, we'll explore the balance of caring for others while caring for ourselves. Start by relaxing into your cushion or chair and closing your eyes. Bring your attention to the region of the forehead. Just noticing if you're wrinkling your brow. And if you are, see if you can soften here. It can help to sense a subtle smile through your lips and the area around your mouth. Feel the whole face soften. give yourself full permission to take this time for yourself right now. There's nowhere else to be. This time is what's important. And to help you center and be present in this moment, focus your attention on the breath. Observe how each inhale turns into an exhale, naturally, effortlessly. One breath transforming to the next. And now we'll begin to scan the body, part by part, starting with the head and face. Relaxing your forehead, and eyes, and your jaw. Soften all the tiny muscles in the ears and lips. Relax your neck and shoulders. And if there's any tightness, tension, or pressure, see if you can stay with your experience, exploring what's here. Rather than resisting it or pushing it away, investigate all sensation with a gentle curiosity and ride through the wave of that feeling. Bring your attention to your chest and back, first sensing the rib cage, the area of the heart, bringing a friendly attentiveness to this region and seeing what's here. Notice any pressure or tension in your back. And observe any sensations in the belly now. Digestion, fullness, emptiness, tightness. See if you can get nice and close. Not trying to change anything, but rather seeing what's there. Now circle your awareness around the area of your hips, pelvis, and glutes. And then drawing your awareness down the length of your arms, all the way into your hands and fingers. Notice if there's coolness, heat, tingling, or pulsing. Observe how sensation comes and sensation goes. And shift your focus into the legs, feeling how the legs make contact with your cushion or chair. And circle your attention around your upper legs, your knees, your lower legs, and then all the way down into the ankles, feet, and toes. And now tune into the full length of the body, allowing sensation to be your teacher. Observing where you might be storing any tightness or emotion. And if you notice any, see if you can extend the breath into that area to allow for a softening. Feel the soothing breath, the healing breath flowing through your body. Now, gently relax your attention. Today, we'll be exploring skillful caregiving. Many of us find ourselves in the role of caregiver, whether it's our job or a responsibility that life thrusts upon us. But the duty of care can end up hindering our own needs. Over time, if we neglect our own well-being, we can become overwhelmed and depleted. We all want to be generous, but true caregiving honors the needs of not only those we care for, but also ourselves. Mindful caregiving means being aware of our strengths, weaknesses, motivations, and needs. It means providing care that's effective, but also sustainable. If caring for others leaves us exhausted, we can begin by asking ourselves, am I doing too much? Am I taking on too much responsibility? Consider the experience on a flight when the airline attendant directs passengers to the oxygen masks that drop down in case of emergency. We must always secure our own oxygen mask before helping anyone else with theirs. First and foremost, we require our own reserves and strength in order to support others. Self-care will look different for each of us. It might mean making time for meditation, exercise, journaling, or just a long bath. Perhaps all we need is an afternoon of quiet solitude. Sometimes self-care implies saying no, recognizing that our own rejuvenation is what gives us the stamina to care for others. So remember that your first duty of care is to yourself. Put your own oxygen mask on first and make your well-being a priority, even if that means stepping back. As Paulo Coelho wrote, when you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. Now gently feel your body's weight on your cushion or chair. Return your attention back to the room. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I hope you enjoyed today's Daily Calm. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
So there's just an example of one of the calms, and if you don't want to spring for the paid and all that, they do have a free, and then there are a lot of other apps out there. Headspace, I've heard, is a good one. I'm sure there's many others. I don't pay attention much anymore since I have this one, but but that might be a quick little something for you to try. All right, so Utilizing resources. So I mentioned that Nikki and I are both certified to teach powerful tools for caregivers. These courses are, as cheesy as it sounds, really actually powerful. I think it's a 6-week course. They're an hour and a half once a week. Nikki and I, you have to have 2 facilitators, so we would both be there. And really the focus is on you, the caregiver. It's really not on the care receiver at all. The first class, we go around and say, you know, I'm so-and-so I take care of, but even, you know, Nikki and I as parents, we're caregivers too. I mean, like, and she said it in the daily calm there too, that, you know, all of us in some respects are caregivers. So it really doesn't necessarily matter if you're paid or unpaid. It's designed for unpaid people, but we don't, we're not going to turn you away if you're a paid caregiver too. But I think it's a really good course. We're covering not nearly everything that they cover. We just kind of picked the highlights, but they do cover a lot, and it's just good. You do an action plan every week and report back on that action plan, and your action plan is kind of your self-care plan. And, you know, those range from some people's idea of self-care. I know one of mine one week was organizing all the toys in my daughter's toy room, because organization is just something I like to do. And another woman's was she was going to deep breathe for 1 minute. So, I mean, it ranges so much to what you want to do with your time, but it's good to have that person to report back to, or those people to report back to, and kind of hold you accountable. So that's a really nice aspect of Powerful Tools. It is a scripted curriculum. We don't really stray too far from the script. It's we were trained by the NDSU extension offices, have this as a free service to North Dakotans. So as long as you live in the North Dakota side of the border, we can get you all of the textbook and everything for free of charge. And also, if you use respite care at all during the times that the class is held, so that you can attend class, whether it be Zoom or in person, that time that someone else is with your care receiver doesn't count against your typical respite hours, if that made sense how I explained that. So your RASPA, we can help you find out who that is within your region and things in your zone, but that person can make sure that those hours don't count against you. They really see this class as important. So that's also something to think about, because I know those respite hours are like gold for those of you that have them and use them. And so, but yeah, they won't count against you at all. I wanted to show you our website too, where we have some different caregiver things. So we have this caregiver corner that's along the top. It's on the right here. So educational opportunities, that's just our trainings, but it's good for you as a care receiver to understand brain injury as well, and some of the components that might go with it. So I would recommend the first 2 for sure. And then if the other 3 apply to you at all, then you could do those 2, but they're video module format. There's a video that plays. If you want CEUs, we can get you those, but if you just want to take them just for the general knowledge, you're welcome to too. Once you enroll, it does take a couple days to get all your login information back, because basically what we're doing is making you a mock UND student. And so you have 3 months from the time that you register to the time you finish to view the courses. So you might want to just register for 1 at a time. And then once you're finished, then start the next one. We have all of our support group information is linked right here. This is a virtual one that is specific for caregivers. So I thought that might be a good one to mention to this group. Skills to Care is something that Innovative Therapy Solutions and Consulting does, and they are a North Dakota program. Megan Dooley is the owner of that, and she's a fairly recent CBIS with us, but she's an occupational therapist. And it does say dementia on here, but don't get too hung up on that. This can be really for anyone. She's not gonna, and the codes that she can bill under and stuff, just don't worry about the dementia piece for right now. But she really does she goes in and basically makes sure that you know the best ways to take care of your care receiver in the home. So she can give you, you know, the proper lifting techniques and just how to have the environment set up. And she just really does a lot of education and training for you as the caregiver. And then she can either come to you or you can do it via telehealth. She is located in the Bismarck-Mandan area, but she does have other staff that she contracts with that are trained in this skills to care as well. So, so don't worry about where you live. I would still reach out to Megan if it's something that you are interested in. And I realize right now her contact info isn't on here, but Innovative Therapy Solutions is on our resource directory, or you can just shoot Nikki or I an email or a call and we can get that to you. And then, there's another caregiver support group. And then if you go over here on the left under self-care, these are some of the things I was referring to. I really like this 63 free things to do. Different activities going on that you can do. These are all specific to another brain injury association, but I think they can kind of get your wheels turning about things you might be able to do around this area. But this tools for releasing stress is a great one. This was the one I was talking to about all the free, majority of these are free, but ways to help yourself reduce stress or release stress. So some of these you might not have thought of in that way, but or some of them it might be the opposite. Reading Facebook might stress you out, but just look at the list and read it, and whatever you think applies to you, give it a try. And that's a good tip one. We do have these two playlists. This one's like feel good songs. Music can really have a huge impact on us and our mental health, and just even for your brain injury individual, music lights up all of your brain lobes and is a great way to just have fun together and maybe dance or whatever. And then there's some podcasts on here. This is from the Tennessee Respite Coalition again, and these are some really good speakers, just kind of even like the power of positivity type example, just different speakers you might want to listen to. And then I just put our coloring page on here too, because I do think coloring is more than for just kids, and it is a good way to reduce stress as well. So just wanted you to be aware of that area within our website. Let's see here, but I think I covered it all, and that is about it as far as our formal stuff. I'm gonna stop my screen share and open it up to any questions or suggestions. I see I have. All right. So, anybody have any questions for us or comments or anything like that? You can type in the chat, or you can unmute and talk. Looks like JP said, are there any type of courses or techniques in a program that will assist TBI survivors in actually dealing with situations they may not have run across before? Even everyday things that happen? Not, JP, can you give me a little more of what your, like situational, like case study kind of almost, or?
Of course, you would put me in that spot. Truthfully, I mean, there's just a lot of things that happen, and sometimes you just have to kind of, what am I going to do next type thing.
Sure. And you're saying like as far as even, doctors or, I guess I'm not.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, we don't have a crystal ball, so I wish we did. We can probably give you, situations and maybe probably best what not to do, because we usually get called in when that happens, or when people have kind of need a fire put out type of thing. But I don't have any great solutions on you for that for right now. I know there are some good caregiver videos out there on like what a caregiver could expect, and in areas of like helping someone with daily living skills and those kinds of things, how to help someone with toothbrushing or a bath or, those kinds of things. But I don't know that we have it on the survivor end as well that I've seen.
Okay.
Nikki, do you have any insights on that one?
I don't know. The only thing I guess I could suggest is, if you are starting to feel uncomfortable in a situation and it's, you're feeling like you're not being understood, sometimes just explaining that to who you're talking to is going to go a long ways, because maybe they don't realize that you're not understanding, or just having that conversation that I've had a brain injury. Sometimes I need a little more time to respond. Being upfront that way can kind of de-escalate situations a lot better than anything else.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've just, as NDBIN as a team, have spent a lot of time recently working on some infographics kind of that there's for example, there's an anger one for clients, and then there's an anger one for providers. And so if anger is something you struggle with, maybe printing that off or looking at that before you want to talk to someone about anger, there might be some good tips in there. And or for your provider to look at prior to your visit or your appointment or something like that too, of what they can look for and ways that they can try to help. Those aren't live on our website yet, but it's very close. It's coming soon. So those might be helpful as well, for some techniques and strategies, I guess.
Guess I'll keep looking.
Yes, I'll bug you guys with an email when they're out and you can see them on the website. So. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, this is a little, I guess, something that's going to come later, but it's with the military stuff. Did come across some information, and I'll send it to Carly. If it helps, great. If not, throw it away.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, our next speaker is this Alex Balabar. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but he was referred to it. He's very high up in like the Wounded Warrior Project and stuff, and I think he'll have some really great things. So I need to correct that. I just made myself a note on our website because it has Dr. List listed, who is our last week's speaker. So we must just have copied and pasted wrong, but we'll get that corrected. And yes, I do think he's going to have some really good insight.
This is almost not nice to say, but in one sense, with TBI matters happening in the military, it really does get the U.S. government more involved, which I hate to say it really does benefit us.
It does. Yep.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's how it has to happen, but yeah, you're very right. Yes.
That and the NFL, and it got highly publicized. So yeah, more people were open to listening.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. That poor young lady that was in that accident recently that they're saying now is going to have permanent damage. It's kind of a national story about isn't it a football coach or a basketball coach was driving and hit a family, and 5-year-old girl was unconscious for a long time, and now she's waking up, and they're saying that there's probably permanent things, and it's horrible, but sometimes it's those bigger stories that do, yes, get people
cause changes to happen.
Exactly.
Truthfully and honestly, every time I feel sorry for myself, I still keep thinking about the first time that I ever went to the Grand Forks TBI support group meeting, and there was a lady there. She had an accident when she was 18 years old. When she woke up, she had to be told who she was, poor family was, what she'd done for the first 18 years. And when you look at that, you know, what do you got to complain about? And yes, I would have used Air Force words there.
Yeah.
Everybody's situation is unique, and
Oh, all right. Well, if nobody has anything else, we're gonna let you guys go. But you know how to find us, most of you, I believe, and our information was in the slides. So hope to see you all back in a couple weeks for the next one.
Again, Carly, I did send you some messages. If you think any of them